This is a lesson for 6-4 on dilations. Dilations make pictures bigger or smaller by multiplying. To find new coordinates, what you have to do is you have to multiply by the scale factor. They will tell you what to multiply by. All right. Now, if the scale factor is greater than one, you're going to see scale factors of like 2 and 3. That's what you have to multiply the coordinates or the points by. Whenever you see a scale factor that is bigger than one, like if you have a scale factor of 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever, it's going to make the new image bigger. Now, on the opposite end of that, how you make an image smaller is that you're going to have a scale factor between 0 and 1. Now, numbers that are in between 0 and 1, a lot of times they'll give you them as a fraction. Maybe they'll give you the fraction 1/2. Now, remember, to change a fraction into a decimal, you have to do the numerator divided by the denominator, or the top number divided by the bottom number. So in here, to change 1/2 into a decimal, I would have to do 1 divided by 2. 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. So that would be our scale factor. That's what we would be multiplying by. Maybe you have a scale factor of 1/4. You would have to do 1 divided by 4. 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. Anytime that you're multiplying by a decimal, all right, you're going to get a number that is, or you're going to get a new image that is smaller than the original. So if you're multiplying by a number like 2 or 3 or 5, the new picture is going to get bigger because it's twice the size, or 3 times the size, or 5 times the size. It's going to get bigger. Where if you multiply something by a half, it's going to get smaller because your new picture is going to be half the size of the original, or a fourth of the size of the original. Or maybe you're multiplying by a third, so you get a third of the size of the original. If you do ever have to multiply by 1/3, make sure that you do 1 divided by 3. All right, 1 divided by 3 is not 0.3, it's 0.33333, or 3 repeating. So make sure that you're typing all those threes into your calculator, fill up the whole entire screen. So let's take a look at what you have to do. So this is a very typical question. It says that the scale factor is 2. So first of all, you're going to have your original points. So if I go to graph my original points on my graph, remember that your first number is always how many places you go over. Your second number when you're graphing points is how many places you go up or down. That's very, very important to know. Remember, you always start right here, right in the middle at the origin at 0, 0. So when we go to graph point A is over to 1, up to 1. This is A. When we go to graph B is over to 1, up to 3. This is B. Then we have C. C is over to 3, up to 1. So this is my original triangle that I'm starting off with. We didn't do any dilation yet. All we did was graph the original triangle. Now, on your class kick homework for today, you'll have the original triangle already there, but I wanted to review how to graph points. So when we take a look, we have a scale factor of 2. What that means is that we have to multiply by 2. Well, what are we multiplying by 2? We're multiplying each and every one of these 6 numbers by 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. So 1, 1 is going to become 2, 2 because we're multiplying by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. So 1, 1 is going to become 2, 2. 1, 3 is going to become 2, 6. 3, 1 is going to become 6, 2. So now I want to graph these. And when you graph these, this becomes your A prime. This becomes your B prime, and this becomes your C prime. On the state test, they are very, very picky. You have to label them with primes. Remember, prime is the little apostrophe after it. That little apostrophe denotes that this is your new point after you did something to the original one. So now we want to graph these points 2, 2, over to 2, up to 2. Now, this one happens to be on this line of the triangle. Sometimes your two pictures that you're going to graph will touch. Sometimes they won't touch. Sometimes they'll overlap. All right. It all depends on the individual question. So this is A prime. 2, 6, over to 2, up to 6. Now, notice that 6 wasn't labeled here, but I can just assume because it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This line up here is 6. So this is 2, 6. This is B prime. C prime is 6, 2. Over to 6, up to 2. Now, again, I can just assume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This has to be 6 right here. So this is C prime. Connect your dots, and you will have to draw these on your homework today. Connect the dots to form your new primed triangle. So again, what did we do here? We had a scale factor of 2. We are doing dilations. They're getting bigger or smaller. Since we're multiplying by 2, everything is going to be twice the size of the original. Now, in some of the questions today, you'll be given the two pictures, and you'll have to figure out what the scale factor is. Well, how do you do that? Well, when I take a look at my original triangle here in the red, the bottom length is 2 blocks. On my new one, it is 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks. Well, how do you get from 2 to 4? You have to multiply by 2, right? It's what you're multiplying by. The scale factor is what you multiply by. You could also look at the height, all right? You could also look at the height of the triangles. The height was 2 for the original. Now the height is 4. How do you get from 2 to 4? What do you have to multiply by? We're multiplying by 2. That's why it has a scale factor of 2. Take a look at the next one. Now this one, in the previous one, our picture got bigger because we had a scale factor that was bigger than 1. In this one, we have a scale factor that is less than 1. We have 0.5. Now remember, they might not give you 0.5. They might tell you that it's 1/2, and you would have to do 1 divided by 2 to find your 0.5. But our new picture is going to get smaller. So let's draw our original one first. Over to 1, up to 1. Over to 1, up to 3. Over to 4, up to 1. And this was A, this was B, and this was C. So here's our original triangle. And now what we want to do is we need to multiply everything by 0.5. So 1 times 0.5 is 0.5. 1 times 0.5 is 0.5. So my A prime, my new A point after I multiply by 0.5 is 0.5, 0.5, comma, 0.5. For B prime, we have 1 times 0.5, which is 0.5. 3 times 0.5 is 1.5. That is B prime. 4 times 0.5 is 2. 1 times 0.5 is 0.5. And this is C prime. So now let's graph these points. Now, we haven't talked about graphing decimals yet, so let's see how we do that. A prime is 0.5. Now, 0.5 is exactly halfway in between 0 and 1. So 0.5, when I go over to 0.5, it's right here, all right, right in between 0 and 1. And then I'm going to go up to 0.5. Now, when I go up to 0.5, 0.5 is halfway in between 0 and 1. So I'm going over to 0.5, up to 0.5. I happen to have my letter A right there, which is not good. but that is going to be my new A prime here in the blue. B prime is over to 0.5 up to 1.5. Now 1.5 is halfway in between 1 and 2. So this is 1.5 right here. So that is B prime. C is over to 2 up to 0.5. So that is right here, and that is C prime. Connect my dots to form my new triangle. Now you notice that this one does overlap a little bit. Sometimes that will happen with your pictures. So that is my new triangle. I have A prime, B prime, and C prime all labeled. All right. Sometimes, again, sometimes they will give you the two pictures and you'll have to figure out the scale factor. How would you do that in this one? Well, I would look at my original one. My original one is 2 blocks high, 2 units high. My new one is only 1 unit high. So how do you get from 2 to 1? You have to multiply by 1/2. Remember, it's always multiplying with the scale factor, always multiplying. It's never adding or subtracting, always multiplying. Or you can look at the length. The length was 3. Now the length is 1.5. Well, what's the relationship between 3 and 1.5? I have to multiply 3 by 0.5 or 1/2. So that's why my scale factor is 1/2. Let's take a look at one more. This one has a scale factor of 3. So let's graph my points first. Over 0, up to 2. Over to 2, up to 1. Over to -1, up to +1. So this was my A, this was my B, and this was my C. Connect your dots to form your triangle. And you won't always have triangles. Sometimes you'll have trapezoids or rectangles or squares or things like that. So now we need to find we have a scale factor of 3. So we need to multiply everything by 3. 0 times 3. 0 times 3 is 0. 2 times 3 is 6. So that is A prime. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. So that is my new B prime. -1 times 3 is -3. 1 times 3 is 3. So this is my new C prime. Now I want to graph this new primed triangle. So I'm going to go starting in the middle at 0, 0. I'm going to go over 0 up to 6. So this is A prime. B is 6, 3. Over to 6, up to 3. This is B prime. And then C prime is over to -3, up to +3. This is C prime. Connect our dots to form our triangle. Now notice that this one doesn't touch, this one doesn't overlap. They're totally separate. That will happen sometimes. So here's our new prime triangle. Since we multiplied by 3, it got bigger. It's 3 times the size of the original. Notice that if we had to figure out the scale factor, our CB down here is 1, 2, 3 units long. Now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 units long. So how do you get from 3 to 9? You have to multiply by 3. Or you could look at the height. All right, the height of the triangle is 1 unit long on our original one. Now it's 3 units long. How do you get from 1 to 3? You have to multiply by 3. So again, the scale factor, you have to multiply by whatever the scale factor is. Multiply each and every point.